Oh, sorry about that little editing there, guys. I know we preached there. I preached there before about no editing in this little My Thoughts on series, and I apologize about that. But the camera battery died. Don't you just love it whenever you're trying to stay on track? But anyway, I'm going to pick right up what I was saying about part two here. Part two, what I do like about it, it does well is they set it at a college campus this time around, which harkens back to a lot of the slashers of the 80s that I grew up watching, and it's got more people in it. You can tell there's a little more budget behind the project, and I've always enjoyed Scream 2 for some reason. It didn't really get on my nerves that bad. Um, I enjoyed it. It was a good thrill ride. It's just that it's the same formula all over again. Two killers. I thought they should have changed that up a little bit, or left a mystery killer at the end and you didn't see his face, his or her face. But it's like they followed the same exact formula as the first one, but threw in some more body count, a little more gore here and there, but literally about the same retelling of the first story, which is kind of the end joke of the movie, because that's usually what happens in a lot of low budget or a lot of older horror movies, that the sequel is usually just a rehashing of the first movie. So that's my thoughts on Wes Craven's Scream 2. Moving into the third part here, guys, Scream 3 is basically the one that I dreaded watching the most, because I do not know what it is about Scream 3. Something just doesn't work. It came out, I think they waited an extra year or two. They might have waited either 2 or 3 years from Scream 2 to Scream 3 instead of just doing it the following year. Because I think everybody else, due to the stardom of the Scream movies or just TV shows that they were on, were doing other projects and had to wait until they could get them all together for part 3. Part 3, either the iron still wasn't hot or the iron cooled down where they should have just struck the next year like they did before. Something about part 3 just doesn't work for me. I mean, I can watch the movie, and I did the other night just to be fair. It's like the story's been done, but they try to do some different stuff in it. Sydney's hiding out and doing women's crisis over the internet and all this stuff, and it just kind of, I don't know, something just doesn't feel right with Scream 3. You watch the movie, and it's got plenty of special features on the disc and everything, just like the other ones. But and it's got great cameos, great supporting characters from people that you know. Jenny McCarthy's in this. Parker Posey plays Gail Weathers in the movie within the movie, because they went ahead and made other Stab sequels within based on the original Scream, the events of the original Scream movie. And it just, this one, the reason why it bothers me is because once you watch about 20 minutes of Scream 3, you're kind of like, okay, this has been done, and you just want it to hurry up and get to the end and see who the killers are. Because that's why it's just like, that's why I think they petered out and they didn't make a Scream 4 right after this one. It's because they needed to either let more time go by, or they didn't, or they let too much time go by. Whatever reason, the formula had just shown its age by this time, and you just couldn't quite put your full effort into viewing this one multiple times like the first Scream, or maybe even the sequel, Scream 2. I think what saved Scream 2 is that it came out the year right after, and everybody nowadays, and even back then about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, it seems like attention spans went from like being able to hold your attention for 2 hours to that of a gnat or something, or a fly. You have a lot of people have the attention span nowadays of like 2 minutes. If you can't hook them into that movie within 2 minutes, you might as well forget it. You're going to lose that butt in the seat, and the ticket's not going to sell thereafter. Because word of mouth is powerful, trust me. This one sports some other people in it. Patrick Dempsey, Dion Richmond, and all the regulars are back in this one. David Arquette is still surviving in this one, even though he got sliced and diced in part 2 again. Nev Campbell, of course, shows up and kind of makes kind of a token appearance. It's just like you're just expected her. She's not really carrying the movie this time. She just kind of shows up into the end of the first act and just kind of is there and doing her role, getting her page. You kind of get that feeling, I think, with what really bothers me. I guess, guys, it's best said, with Scream 3, it just feels like, hello, we're here, give us our paycheck kind of attitude out of the actors. They're not really trying real hard because they're just tired of the series by this time, and it didn't really leave much up to really speculate about. I mean, you can kind of tell who the killer is through the whole movie. It doesn't really leave anything to be desired. You know, it doesn't have that good mystery or anything left over after you watch it. So basically, Scream 3 to me has always been the completest movie. If you watch the first two, it's about required. It's like required reading. You just about have to watch Scream 3. It's a technically decently made movie. Wes Craven did his regular direction style from the other two movies, and it's not the worst horror movie I've ever seen. There are some things that just bother me about the movie. It's just like the look of some of the actors in this movie that we've seen in the other ones. Like, Courtney Cox had that standard reporter look in part one. Part two, she had that haughty look going on, and it was working for a lot of the guys. Part three, I don't know what she was doing, who did her hair in that movie or her look in that movie, because she just looked like she was haggard or something. She didn't look like she was really into the role at all, and I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel about it. But who cares? I mean, because, part three is the big cash-in movie anyway, because part two did very well. They expected this one was probably going to be the end of it anyway, so they threw in everything with the kitchen sink. Did about the same formula. That's about all I can really say about part three. Not my favorite in the series. It's definitely goes in the order of the trilogy for me. Scream 1 is great. Scream 2 is okay. It's pretty good. Part 3, I'll watch it if I have to. That's one of those deals, like, that's the best way I can start and talk about that.